Next up is Steve Sherrill. And I'm sure Steve was glad to hear Keith say that he was using battery power. But Steve's series, what do you want to talk about? So Steve, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I got a couple things tonight. Number one is sharing our hobby with others. And how are we going to do that? Again, we're coming to the end of the summer. We're starting the time when we have our train shows, our conventions, our NMRA meets, and we have our open houses. Some of us have layouts and many of us don't. Those with layouts, we had to prepare our layouts for the open house. And what do? Normally, we have to straighten up. That's what everybody, has to do. We clean up, put stuff away, make it presentable. Because the most important thing is presentation. People don't like to come to a house and see a layout that's not organized. We also have to complete the projects that we've started with the anticipation of having the open house. These are projects which we had volunteered for the open house and we said we'd have done. And so we have a time schedule to finish these projects. For those that don't have a layout and want to participate in these open houses, there's always time for a clinic or some other presentation. Sometimes we get, a lot of people and we have to split the visiting of the layout and the presentation in another part of the house, if you have that. One important thing that I've come across in open houses is handicap accessible. I'll bet if you had 100 layouts, there would only be one that would be handicap accessible. We tend to build our layouts with steps or where people have to walk a long way to get to a building. And so it eliminates a lot of the sharing that we can do with people who may have some handicap that doesn't allow them to have the opportunity to visit some really good layouts. I know in my house, I have a single story, and they can drive right up to the door here to operate my layout if they can come inside. And I always have a chair ready if they need to sit down, if they have something that doesn't allow them to stand very long. They can always come inside and sit and talk to the people who are visiting. That way they're participants and they also get to enjoy visiting. One other thing is when people come to, you have the open house, a lot of times there are things that you can utilize to give the visitors. I know a lot of people have books. They have sign-in books. They have cards that they give out. I had something made a while back, which was a laser printed engine, which goes on your magazines to save a page. And so what I would do, I usually put my phone number if I wanted to come back, or my name so they remember the layout or don't remember, depending on, what if they like the layout or not. One other thing that I want to talk about tonight is I'm sure that we all have magazines, books, other reference materials that we have collected over the years. And I know that it's they take up a lot of space, a lot of shelving, things like that. And every once in a while, it's good to take those books or magazines and leaf through them and look and see, for research purposes, if nothing else, to also kind of look and see get some of the names of the old kits that we got or have seen, and we just have forgotten what the name of a kit was. So today I just happened to pick one up. Unfortunately, it's backwards, but a Gazette from 1976. And so I was just leafing through it. And if you notice, it's a climax issue. So it's a special issue. And I started laughing because in 1976, the Gazette was only 52 pages. I think it's over 100 now. And if you went through and looked at some of the magazines, some of the pictures, articles, prices of equipment, it's almost comical to see how much things were back in 1976, 50 years ago. But I often do that. And when I was building my layout, I would go through the old model railroaders that I didn't want to keep. And if I saw a page that I liked or a picture, I would cut that out to have a reference that maybe I could include something like that on my current layout. And then if I used it, fine. If I didn't later on, I would go ahead and just discard them, But I just, these old magazines, they kind of get in the way, but every once in a while, it's good to go back and see what the old days were like. One other thing I wanted to talk about was there is a group called the International Plastic Modelers Society. Now, I know when model railroaders have a convention, they'll have maybe 100 models, and that's a lot. These people will have thousands of models that they've built. Now, I'm not saying that they're every model that we can use that will work for a railroad, but they do have trains, they do have airplanes, they have boats, they have wartime settings, they have buildings, they have dioramas. But the interesting thing is, military modelers have a way of putting shadows and utilizing painting skills that are different from what we do. And so it's always good to pick up some ideas from these people. And also when they have their suppliers are there, they have many different color paints that we can also use for our models, especially if we're freelancing. And we're not trying to match up a particular prototype railroad. So that's about all, if anybody have any questions on anything or want to comment, I think there's a lot to be said for this time of year when we're getting ready for the train shows, conventions, and just sharing the hobby.
Hey, Steve, it's Keith here.
Hey, Keith.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good. I wanted to mention IPMS. I have a couple of friends that are military modelers, and they do some amazing work. But if anybody lives within reasonable driving distance of the border and wants to see a show, we have an airport near my home, which is called the Mount Hope Airport in Hamilton, Ontario. And it's a historic airport. It's got one of only 2 flying Lancaster bombers in the world. And there's a whole assortment of other planes there too. There's probably at least 50 planes there. Well, these guys have a show there, the plastic modelers, and they set up inside the hangars with all the planes around them. It's mind-boggling. There's thousands and thousands of modelers and a lot of people, and it's really worth a visit. I've seen some amazing models there. Dioramas with tanks and trucks and things like that. Just amazing.
There's a lot of techniques. We can, you can just pick up a lot of hints
Yeah.
with what they do. And again, this is on YouTube, and you can look. It's all over. This is all over the world.
Yeah.
This is actually international, and they will have. It just surprises me how they have thousands of models.
Yeah.
And they display them. You know, maybe there'll be a HO scale airplane, maybe be a 1/16.
1/24th. They go to 1/24th. There's tons of 1/24th stuff.
And the figures that they paint.
Yes.
You know, we have Ian Fangus, who does a fantastic job painting. But these guys, man, they're good. They're real good. And they're painting all different size figures in all different positions. And it's really, it's wonderful to see what work they do. And I certainly am looking for one that would be near me to go and see and visit, because I do believe there's things that we can pick up. And they do clinics, you know, and I'm sure they're just like us that want to share everything that they've done. Yeah. And they have different sizes. I don't know if they have ages or not. I don't know, Keith, but I would assume that they did. They have different. I mean, it's millimeters. Most of the stuff is in millimeters, I think.
Well, they probably have their own new tracks, but it's a different kind of tracks.
Yeah. Yes.
Tank tracks.
So Steve, I wanted to come back to something you said, and I think there's something interesting that we probably don't think about that makes a lot of sense today. You know, when you read a magazine and you see an article you really like, you kind of today have one of two choices. You either keep the magazine or you tear the article out and try to keep it. But there's a third choice, which is probably the best way to do it, is take a picture of it with your phone.
Yeah.
And then store that phone picture and put some keywords on it and think about how you store stuff. And it's interesting. If you think about all of us, you think about your life. If you'd been taking pictures of everything you were interested in, you had them in a file structure where you could find them with keywords. Imagine how much information you would have access to compared to what we really have. We have all these magazines in the wall and we can't find anything. And so, no, it's a really, I never thought about it until you kind of said it that way of, you know, having a personal archiving system. You know, we talked about using PowerPoint for archiving when you build a model in that, but I think kind of having a personal archiving system where you store things and tag them in some way so you can find them later might be really interesting. And plus, then you don't even have to have the magazine. If somebody has a magazine that shows you something, you can now capture it. So kind of an interesting thought process.
I have a pretty extensive file system on my computer. It's a tree, you know, model railroading, and then, you know, each building and all the photos under the building, and then reference photos. I've been doing this for years. Otherwise, you can't find anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you catalog the colors that you use?
Pardon me,
Tom?
What's
catalog the colors, the paints?
No, I don't do that. But
the painting mixtures that you use?
No, because I don't do that.
The weathering techniques, any of that kind of thing?
No, I mean, I don't know. I kind of do the same thing over and over on the weathering thing.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I do catalog the models.
Tom, you didn't give the right answer. You just follow nature. Nature does the same thing. It never really changes.
Well, you know, when I build a model, you know, I photograph it from beginning to end. I've been doing that for years. So I have, like, anytime I need to do a presentation for Jim here, I can pull one of my model files up and put together a PowerPoint, you know, the photos from beginning to end. And sometimes they'll have the paints on there, but not normally. Yeah.
Tom, this is Greg. Can I ask you a question? What got you started photographing while you were building?
I just wanted to do it someday. I had this idea that I wanted my son, to be honest, to know how I did these things. I just wanted a reference, you know, and then it's paying off with this new tracks, because we literally have probably 20, 30 models that are photographed from, you know, I build everything on plywood, you know, from plywood to finished model, and they're all on files. I can quickly find one, you know, on my computer. And I don't know. It's
Absolutely.
just
I know what you mean. I started doing it years ago. mostly so I would remember what I did if I wanted to replicate it. I've got a horrible memory, and if I take a picture of the jar of paint next to what I painted, if I want to get that color again or that mixture again or something, I know how I did it.
I do have these little sample cards of wood where if I do, to answer Steve's question, I just remembered that I have probably 15 or 20 of those where I did, I show like all the different reds. So if I want to see what, it's not specific to a model, but if I say, here's a bunch of red paints and here's how they look on wood. So I have these little cards, if you will. So, if, I don't have to guess if I'm painting a model, what gray or what red or what green, follow me? No.
Yep.
The boat that you built, is that flat bottom? I mean, are you going to have to do anything to the bottom on that boat to sit it in the water?
No, it's a flat bottom. It's designed to sit in the river. It's a flat bottom. It's not a full keel.
A waterline boat.
Is that kit still available?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yeah. He has about 6 or 7 boat kits, and then he's got a really nice car float kit in ON30.
There's another one that is in process. This is a sunken boat.
Oh.
I mean, it just has its base color on there, but this will be in a future show. So this will be in the river, and instead of just sinking it into the river, I'm going to have the deck collapsed into it. And but he has all, they're all designed flat bottom.
Gary Cerrone has some rowboats that are really nice kits too.
I need one small rowboat. I was thinking of scratch building it, but I'm getting into this kit building now.
Well, you gotta build one a week,
I know.
Yeah. Here, I'll share this real quick. This is hang on, I gotta get sorry, I'll let that go. Not gonna try that.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you so very much.
Okay. All right.
We'll see you next week. Thank you.